right, welcome everyone. If you're in here with us live, welcome, or if you're watching us on YouTube or watching afterwards, welcome as well. Today we will be discussing our next member trip to the Holland Tulip Festival in Michigan and Mackinac Island trip. With us today, we have Nivid, who many of you may have spoken with on the phone. Nivid, if you want to say hi. And
Hello, everyone.
so you can put a face to the name. We also have Al, who is a volunteer escort for us. We are a nonprofit travel organization, as you know, if you're a club member. And so Al is, we're very lucky enough to have him as a volunteer for our trips with his extensive travel experience. And I'm going to hand it over to him while I run the trip broadcast, video broadcast rather, so he can explain the trip itself. So thank you, Al.
Thank you, David. Welcome, everybody. If you've participated in one of the online presentation, we are doing this right now. It's live on Google Meet, and those that are in Google Meet at the end of the presentation can ask questions live. Many more of you are in YouTube watching right now in YouTube. And we're doing this meeting. David's and the Happening Travel Club has asked me to participate in this. I have a lot of experience in Michigan. I live in the villages with many of the members that do, and around Florida and around the country that are participating. The vast majority of people that will see this presentation, thousands that will see this presentation, will see it on demand. It will be with the page at happening.travel about the trip, and so you can watch it there. And most people will watch it on demand in YouTube later. But I make sure that I explain all of this to tell you we did this live when we recorded it. So I welcome you. I'm going to talk to Amy in just a moment. But if we can start the slides, David. And of course, this is the Happening Travel Club's program called Next Stop to Adventure. And today we're talking about Michigan and a special focus on Holland and the Tulip Festival, Tulip Time in Holland, Michigan. If we can come back to the slides again, David, if we can show Amy slide. Amy, I want to introduce you now. Very happy to have Amy. She is the group sales manager at Tulip Time Festival. And at Tulip Time in Holland, Michigan. Amy, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Amy, you jump in at any time when we're talking about tulips and Holland and Western Michigan and Lake Michigan and really the whole state. It's a pleasure having you here. Before we start in terms of talking about the itinerary, Amy, I want to start with you. I just escorted a group from the villages. In fact, the first ever trip that went from the villages up to Michigan and came for the Tulip Time Parade. We had seats at the parade, and we were there for 3 nights. Help everybody first understand Holland. Holland is a different kind of place in Michigan. Has deep Dutch roots. And beautiful tulips that we can't grow here in Florida, or you can, but it's very hard. And for maybe a few minutes, they're blooming. Tell us about Tulip Time and Holland, Michigan.
Well, if you came on this May, it was our 97th year doing it. And it's a 10-day festival that celebrates Dutch culture and Dutch heritage. And we had over 100 groups come and see this, and we have about 1 million people come to Holland every year at around the beginning of May to see the tulips and experience all the activities that we have. The tulip is really the star of the show, but there are lots of lots of things to do and see, like parades. We have 2 parades. We have a Dutch lunch and dance experience. We have nightly entertainment. We have an immersion garden that is hosted, that is put together by Ibo Golson, who comes from the Netherlands every year to set up this garden for us. And it seems to be very successful. And it's different than some of the other gardens in town, that all those gardens are bulbs planted in the fall. And we hope that they will come up during the festival. But the immersion garden is something that is potted tulips that are planted at chest height and in raised beds, and it's an immersive experience. And so those tulips are pretty much guaranteed.
Yeah. I went to immersion garden. I went to.
I can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I went. Can you hear me now, Amy?
Oh, that wasn't me.
Oh,
I
yeah.
can hear you fine.
Oh, I see. Okay,
It
that
was-
was somebody else talking. Thank you.
Yeah.
I went to immersion garden. We went to Windmill Island. It's hard for Floridians to understand the tulip experience in Holland. Literally, my goodness, I'm guessing you probably don't count each tulip bud, but we're talking about millions of tulips. Your principal park in Holland has it. It seems like in downtown every corner is full of tulips, and then you have special event admission tulip programs. Amy, explain to everybody about Holland, why other places in the country, while they might do tulip programs, this is really a special event because in the 1800s, Dutch settlers really coming to Western Michigan and setting their roots into Holland and Western Michigan. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it was started by Van Raalte. He came over in the 1800s, and he opened up, settled by the Indians, and he started a village here, and he started Hope College. And so we have a lot of experience and history with that. And then in the early 1900s, one of the biology teachers at the Holland High School decided to start tulip time, or started to plant tulips, get the city to plant tulips to kind of commemorate the history of our Dutch heritage.
Yeah, it's very interesting. For those of you, I always I make the note. You're seeing that picture there. Holland, the Netherlands, has Keukenhof gardens in really only a few minutes from the Schiphol airport in Amsterdam, and tulips are very important to the Netherlands. The ties through certainly the last century with the Netherlands seems to be really, from my impression and my seat, seems to be really close to Western Michigan and the Holland region. The nation of the Netherlands seems to have really embraced the cultural nature of Holland. I know the windmill that's at Windmill Island was, I believe, the only windmill that the Netherlands ever allowed outside the country. Is that correct?
Well, I don't think it was the only one. It was the last one that they allowed to be disassembled and reassembled here in Holland. Yes.
Yeah, and tell us a little bit of, for example, like Windmill Island, and what guests from the villages, when travel club members on the villages, can see when they go to Windmill Island.
Well, they have it's a little miniature like Dutch village. They have you have a picture of it up on the screen, the actual fields of tulips, the Dutch windmill that you just discussed. It has a big pipe organ. It has it's very beautiful. little canal that a little bridge that you walk over to get to the windmill. They can actually go up into the windmill and be educated about how they use it to grind wheat, mill the wheat. So, yep, it's a very interesting place. It's a city-run park.
And during, throughout the year, but at Tula time, this is an admission charge to go to Windmill Island to see the island, the organ, the organ that was in Amsterdam, and to see the tulips. And the tulips are planted in farm style. So for those of you who have been to Holland, this is the closest to most of what you see in most places in the Netherlands between about the third week in March and the first couple, maybe 10 days of May. In the Netherlands, this is as close in the United States as you would see what would exist with tulips in the Netherlands, but in very large quantity in the United States here. This admission is included in the Travel Club's trip. The immersion garden, and we're going to show you this in the itinerary in a minute, but I want to take a moment to talk about the immersion garden. I've this year found it fascinating because the immersion garden is an orchestrated, curated specialty garden. It's on open grounds where it's on elevated platforms. And the platforms are planted in color themes of tulips, mixture of color amongst tulips, and they're planted at a higher level. So literally the tulips are at face level for you. You don't have to look over a sea of tulips in a field like you're seeing in this picture. They're actually right at face level. Tulips have a various but lovely scent, and you have the opportunity to smell them, but you see the tulips orchestrated in a very beautiful way. What was the idea of doing an immersion garden versus wild tulips? Because I really haven't seen that anywhere else in the United States except at your Tulip Time Festival. What was the inspiration of presenting tulips in that way?
I think they some of our staff members had seen Ivo Golson's work throughout the world. I think this is the first and only installation he's ever done in the United States.
Yeah.
So they had experienced, and they had met him at a tulip convention, I want to say, and they invited him to come and do that for us here because, again, it is a unique experience.
The other thing I wanted to talk about, we go to the city park and see tulips there. We see a lot of tulips on this trip, 2 admission programs, the city park. But I want to take a moment to talk about the parade, Amy. The Travel Club has reserved seats for the parade, so you don't worry about standing. The vast majority of people that come to the parade, it's like a small city municipality parade that you would see in other places in the country. What's unique about this is the Dutch heritage. And of course, one of the most famous representations of Dutch heritage are wooden shoes. They're terribly uncomfortable, by the way, and they're a nice souvenir, but it's not something you would want to be wearing all of the time. It was interesting to me how many people were in wooden shoes and in costume at the parade, in the parade and also watching the parade. Explain that experience of what the parade feel is like for our members here in Florida that wouldn't quite have seen something like this before. What's the experience like of the parade?
Well, we have 2 different parades. We have a Thursday parade. It's called the Kinder Parade, and all school children from K-12 participate in that parade. So we it's just tradition that they definitely dress in Dutch costumes, and just that's what they've always done, and that's definitely what the people like to see. And then the high school marching band performs in Dutch shoes, so they march, the whole entire parade route with in their Dutch in their wooden shoes.
I want to wait. I apologize for interrupting you, Amy. I really, is that Black River High School, or which high school was that does that?
It's Holland Christian.
Holland
Holland High School.
Holland
But
High School.
yeah, we have three different high schools in Holland.
Okay. I just want to draw attention to everybody because it is really a fun thing to watch. That marching band that marches in the parade, every single person in the marching band, whether you're twirling a baton or you're playing the tuba, or you're leading the marching band, every single person is in wooden shoes, and they walk the entire parade in wooden shoes. And so you hear the traditional clogging of the wooden shoes, which is fun to listen to on the street. And it's fun to watch because you can high step in wooden shoes pretty easily. And so they high step and they do little dance moves. And it's a fun thing to watch that you can't see anywhere else in the country. It is a completely, from my experience, a unique opportunity to participate in a community celebration, which is what the Tulip Time Parade is all about. It's celebrating community and the culture of the community and seeing something different. So it's a lot of fun. And you're in relatively small grandstand seating. So that's a really big, important feature for our members of the travel club, is that you have seating for the parade. Their Civic Center, Convention Center, what would you call it, Amy, that's on the main street where the parade is, where you have groups and other events? What is that called?
That's the Holland Civic Center.
The Civic Center. The Civic Center is right the heart of let's call it the Main Street parade, right across the street. They have rides and lots of food samples, and it's a traditional community experience, except this goes on for 10 days. And as Amy tells you, 1 million people come to it. So it's quite significant. And Amy, I'm gonna fold you in as we continue. But David, let's move on in terms of that. Oh, I should say, you see the departures there, May 3rd of 2027, and you can plan, if you can't do 27, you can plan for 2028, May 8th departure. Next. This itinerary is 8 days, very good value, $1,399, including all of the taxes and fees. But it's an 8-day itinerary. And for those of you I know we have lots of Midwesterners that are members of the travel club. For those that are not as familiar with Michigan, this is generally considered a Circle Michigan itinerary. It's doing both Lake Coast of Huron on the east and Michigan on the west. And it's doing the other major sites from the south all the way to the northern tip before you go to the UP, the Upper Peninsula. So it's doing a circle of Michigan for Detroit, Frankenmuth, to Mackinaw and Mackinaw Island, down the west coast of Michigan, quite scenic, to Holland and Grand Rapids. And that's what this itinerary does for 8 days. Next. Of course, the tour is escorted. I have been to Holland many, many times. I escorted this year for the tour, and this was the first time that the travel club or the villages had a real organized Circle Michigan itinerary out of the villages, and it was a monumental success. The trip was just absolutely fantastic. Next. The trip features first-class 3-star hotels, Comfort Metro Park in in Detroit, 2 nights in Mackinaw City, which is in the very mainland northern tip. It's the gateway. The hotel that the travel club uses is a 5-minute walk to the ferry to Mackinaw Island. And so you stay at Baymont. The itinerary stays in Grand Rapids for the 3 nights, which is very close to Holland, about 25 miles, and a very good Holiday Inn Express. This trip offers the upgrade. It says 4-star, but it really is a 5-star property to the Grand Hotel Mackinaw Island. Very, very famous. And you can upgrade your stay to stay at the Grand Hotel on Mackinaw, which is a real treat. It's stepping back into the 19th century. Next. Comprehensive sightseeing is included. Really, everything that you would want to do is included. In Detroit, to Frankenmuth and the famous Bronner's Christmas House, the Zender's Restaurant, which is the largest restaurant in the United States, their famous chicken dinner. Then up to sightseeing in Mackinaw. The ferry is included to Mackinaw Island, all of your sightseeing there. Coastal tour down the west coast of Michigan, focusing on the dunes, Sleeping Bear National Monument, to see the dunes. Very, very scenic coming down the west coast, more scenic than the east coast of Lake Huron, coming down to Holland, and then the 3 days of focus during the Tulip Festival in Holland. We, as Amy told you, there's two major parades. The travel club arrives on Friday and stays for the weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and we'll do the Saturday parade, which is is their big parade, and you're there for the weekend with all kinds of activities and events going on in Holland. This year, the itinerary had a Sunday brunch on Sunday. Does lots and lots of fun things, and very comprehensive in its sightseeing. Next. The itinerary does breakfast every day. It does not include dinners because it gives lots of choices of special kinds of features. The Renaissance Center in Detroit, the group that I was with earlier in the first week in May went. It's the tallest building in Michigan, and we went to the lounge on the 72nd floor via the glass elevators and went there. And it does a lot of special kinds of meals for dinner if you would like to participate. Next. Of course, first-class transportation's included, everything that you need, including your arrival in Detroit Airport. This itinerary arrives in Detroit and departs from Grand Rapids. And so regardless, although the travel club does not handle your airfare, you do that directly. They provide transfers regardless of the time you arrive in Detroit and regardless of the time of your departure in Grand Rapids. So all transportation is included. Next. Let's quickly go through the trip and experiences. So first, on day one, you fly into Detroit. We begin with a welcome happy hour and dinner on the first evening in Detroit. Detroit is a bit of Renaissance. It is very, very different than the experience in Mackinaw or in Holland. Obviously, a major metropolitan area. Over the last 20 years, Detroit has had lots of difficult times and difficult issues. And I personally, from my seat, see the renaissance that's going on in Detroit. Many, many improvements are going on. We will begin by welcoming all the members that come in for happy hour and then dinner. On day two, we do sightseeing in Detroit. Lots of interesting things to see. I was a little disappointed on this visit that I could not take guests to the Motown Museum. It is under renovation right now, but is scheduled to open shortly. And for this trip in 2027, the Motown Museum will be open. We go to Greenfield Village, which is a very wonderful experience in conjunction with the Henry Ford, the museum. And the museum is outstanding. Greenfield Village is outstanding, and all done on day two. Then on day three, after the 2 nights in Detroit, we leave and we travel north. And Detroit is the urban portion of this trip. Everything else on this trip is smaller, quainter, interesting community. All of our members will be super comfortable with everything that's done on this itinerary. On day 3, we travel north. We go to Frankenmuth. Frankenmuth, I thought interesting. They sent a float to Tulip Times Parade. And Frankenmuth is a major tourist destination like Holland. It's called punching above your weight. You have more impact on your on tourism than normally you would see for the size of the community. When you see that, that is because there's so many things to see and do in the destination. Frankenmuth and Holland in Michigan are both that. Mackinaw, of course, is the third. So we go to Frankenmuth. It is a German village, larger than Helen, Georgia, and very quaint. And of course, the main thing to see is the Bonner's Christmas house. It's the largest permanent Christmas store in the world. And it's a wonder to behold. I have been many, many times, and this time on the trip, I bought stuff. It always surprises me that I continue to do that, but I love Bronner's. And then lunch at Zender's, which is the largest restaurant in the United States. In single seating, they can see almost 2,500 people at a time in 17 dining rooms. Quite amazing on the main street in Frankenmuth. Then after our visit to Frankenmuth, we do a bit on the east coast of Michigan along Lake Huron. We visit a cheese factory. We do a number of things that are quite interesting. We stop at an elk preserve and see Michigan elk that have been reintroduced into Michigan from Montana in the 1920s, and it's an interesting site. And then to Mackinaw. And Mackinaw is basically the town of Mackinaw, the village of Mackinaw, however you would define it, is basically one main street. Lots of shops and restaurants, and at the end of the main street is the access onto Lake Michigan and the ferries that go principally to Mackinaw Island. On day 4, we'll have 2 nights in Mackinaw, and we'll take the Shuffler's Ferry, which you see in the middle picture. It's a nice ride to Mackinaw Island. The Mackinaw Bridge to the Upper Peninsula, you can see in the distance from where our hotel stays in Mackinaw, and on the ferry crossing that we are, the boat will actually sail to Mighty Mo, the Mackinaw Bridge, and we'll sail under it. The picture you see in the upper left is Main Street in Mackinaw, and Mackinaw is lined as a tourist destination. There's only about approximately 700 what are considered permanent residents on Mackinaw Island, but a huge number, just like in Holland. And what Amy told us about the first 10 days in May of how many people visit, the same thing is happening at Mackinaw, the number of people that visit in the summer. Mackinaw Island is only open essentially May 1 to sometime in a closing date in October. So their season is very short based on the weather. The picture you're seeing in the upper left is the main street. There's small inns, there's shopping, there's restaurants, and of course, the most famous of the famous is the fudge stores. And I think approximately 15 fudge stores where they make their own fudge at them. And I'm not a huge fudge eater, and the only time I ever eat fudge, because it's not really a favorite dessert of mine, is from Mackinaw Island, because the flavors of special kinds of fudge that they make is just incredible. And that's a fun thing to do. Mackinaw Island, that you see the third picture in the upper right, the village of Mackinaw Island is small. You walk everywhere, and you walk everywhere because automobiles and engines are not allowed on the island. There's a few minor exceptions based on emergency situations, etc. But for all intents and purposes, there's no cars or vehicles. The way you get around on Mackinaw Island is you walk, very easy to do, or you take horse carriage. And the taxis in Mackinac Island are horse-drawn carriages. It's a very fun thing to do. One of the highlights is to either walk up to or walk back to the Grand Hotel doing the taxi, the horse carriage, in one direction or the other. You might want to do it going up, although it's not a terribly difficult walk up to the Grand Hotel, and then, or you can take the carriage and then you walk back down into the village of Mackinaw. This is a beautiful day. Fort Mackinaw is very famous. National Park Service run here at Mackinaw, and very famous because this was the farthest west that the British got in the War of 1812 and attacked Fort Mackinaw. And Fort Mackinaw surrendered without ever a shot even being fired. They were so shocked that the British were in northern Michigan. And lots to see and do here. And of course, the big highlight, if you would like, is to stay at the Grand Hotel. If you do not stay at the Grand Hotel Mackinac, we will still make arrangements to be able to have lunch. And they have a very famous lunch. Guest traveled with me on the tour, and we had lunch in their main dining room. It is a buffet, and it is quite spectacular. The Grand Hotel is very famous for having the largest porch in the world, 660 feet. And there's something in the neighborhood of about 300 rocking chairs, all in the white design of the hotel. Quite beautiful. And that's day 4 in Mackinac. On day 5, a little more, showing you some of the pictures. The upper left shows from Lake Michigan. To see the walk at the hotel is really quite beautiful. The most important and the best vantage point is the picture you see, the third picture on the right. That is the porch, portico, decorated, very patriotic in terms of flagging this year because of the 250. It was quite beautiful. No one is allowed in the hotel unless you're a hotel guest or a special invite. So, of course, if you're staying at the Grand Hotel with the upgrade, you're staying in the hotel. If you decide not to do that, you will still be able to visit the Grand Hotel because we will do it through our special permission with the group. And that's the only way that you can be in the hotel because it's not open to the general public. And so we'll be able to access that. The walk on that portico is quite beautiful. Right to the right of that picture is where the horse-drawn carriages of the public taxis stop, and the Grand Hotel has its own horse and stable program and carriage program also. So whether you use the public ones from town on Main Street or you use the Grand Hotel, it's a spectacular experience. Lovely, lovely. It's unlike anything that we have in the anywhere else, and that's why the Grand Hotel is the Grand Hotel. Next, David. Then after 2 nights, now, as I said, this itinerary is very leisurely paced. We're not traveling huge distances in the Circle, Michigan. We're staying 2 nights in Detroit, 2 nights in Mackinac. And so I like that because we're not moving every single day, staying 1 night and then moving on. It increases the packing. We don't do that on this itinerary. On day 5, you will leave Mackinac, and this is the most scenic of all of the days of the trip. This is traveling south toward Holland and the Tulip Time Festival, coming down a beautiful, big portion of it, coastal road. The coastal experience, including Sleeping Bear Dunes National Monument. And Sleeping Bear Dunes, the western part of Lake Michigan, was created, as probably many of you know, or maybe you don't know. It is a glacier. This is the remains of a glacier, like in Alaska, only it was a gigantic glacier. Twice as long as what the current Lake Michigan was the glacier that formed in Melt Lake Michigan. And as such, the west coast of Michigan is filled with sand. And at first glance, it looks like sand, but it is not. It is ground silt. And when you go to Alaska or you go to Switzerland or where you go to New Zealand, you will recognize what looks like sand, but it is actually rocks and stone and boulders that were ground by the glacier. And it turns into a powder that becomes sand. And that is why there's dunes on the west coast of Michigan. High point at Sleeping Dunes, I believe in memory, is about 325 feet. So it's quite high as a bluff for Lake Michigan. Holland, by the way, as you're looking at this picture, if you turned around, we're looking at 12 o'clock looking north. If you turned around and looked at 6 o'clock looking south, you would follow this water edge all the way down to Holland. And Holland is also on this lake, which makes it quite beautiful. We'll go to Sleeping Bear Dunes National Monument, and lots of stops here, lots of farming. We'll do cherries at Traverse City. Cherries is a big feature. Lots of farming, orchards, and fruit on this day experience. So the lake, the bluffs, the dunes, and quite a beautiful experience on this day 5. And we will go to Grand Rapids. We go to Grand Rapids, by the way, because it is the second city of Michigan in terms of size, and accommodation is better. Just simply because of the availability of rooms for the Tulip Time Festival. Then next on day 6, and we talked about this really at the beginning, understanding Holland and Western Michigan's Dutch heritage. For me, for everybody who hasn't been to Western Michigan, this is very difficult to understand because it's not a tourist attraction. Holland is a tourist attraction. It's a tourist destination, of course. But this festival is really not a tourist attraction because it is celebrating the cultural experience of the people that live in Western Michigan, specifically Holland, and the people that came to Western Michigan and specifically Holland in colonizing, in setting roots of building lives in Western Michigan. And that's why it's too difficult for me to explain it. Maybe Amy has something to add to this, but it is difficult to explain the tie between the Netherlands and Holland, Michigan. But the tie is because this is real. This is not a tourist attraction. This is not Walt Disney World, and it's the Dutch Pavilion at Epcot Center. This is a real living community in their Dutch heritage. Amy, did I get that right, or anything you want to correct me on in terms of the explanation about that in Holland?
No, that sounds good. We do. People do not dress up like that outside of our festival, though, generally speaking. But we are very proud of our Dutch heritage for sure. And that one picture that you do have up there right now, it is of the Dutch dancing, and I don't know if we mentioned that earlier, but that's a very important part and a very fun part for visitors to see as well.
And we didn't. Why don't you explain what you have the opportunity to do when you're in Holland for that?
Well, usually we have Dutch dancing that takes place most nights of the week in Centennial Park. We have it on 8th Street, which is our main drag. On the nights that the 8th Street is closed for the parades. And that's a very big tradition. And kids start as young as there's usually three levels. They have kinder dancing, they have middle dancing, and then high school dancing. So, I mean, some kids do this since they were 5 years old and continue on through high school. And then we even have alumni dancing. People that are in their 60s and that did this when they were kids can still participate.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we have lessons too. So if anybody wants to join in some of the lessons, they can take part in that at Centennial Park as well.
If I can help participants in the live, and again, reminder, the vast majority of you are watching this in on demand at YouTube. You're seeing this later than when we talked about it. If there is one thing that I can impart to you about this trip that I think is very interesting. Of this experience, 4 days and 3 nights of the week are dedicated to Holland and Tulip time. Holland will remind those that are at the villages very much of the villages. And the reason is, while it can be a large experience, after all, the villages is really a large place. We have a couple of 100,000 people in the villages, but it is the mindset of a hometown or small hometown, even with the size of the villages. Holland reminds me of that. One of the examples I said on the Saturday when we were at the parade, the number of volunteers that Tulip Time has for this festival is just astounding. The number of people that are in, a colored shirt, or, they help on anything, whatever it might be. Everybody came away from the trip. Gosh, there are so many volunteers. They must really like this, and they must really be proud of this. And I say that from the standpoint of what your experience will be like on this trip. You're going to go to some place that is very much going to remind you of the villages and what we love about the villages. It's very much that experience in Holland. So when Amy's talking about, the dancing program, it's because they want to, and they love it, and they appreciate the history, and they want to keep it alive, etc. This is a very non-commercial event. Even though it's touching huge numbers of people, it's still not a commercial event. And we know this because we sit in the heart of the largest commercial tourism communities in the world. And so we know what commercial tourism is all about. This is the antithesis of that. So I just hope I'm conveying my feeling and understanding of this. And that's why I think it's so special. David, next slide. As I said, on day 6, we go to the parade. This is the Saturday parade, their major parade, and exactly what you would see in a hometown parade. You're going to see floats, and you're going to see politicians, and you're going to see businesses, and you're going to see high school bands. Although there was a huge number of high school bands, it was quite impressive. The one that marches in the wooden shoes, the Dutch wooden shoes, but it's a lot of fun, lots of costume, and it's different than the other kinds of parades. In Florida, we have many, 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 many. Did I mention many parades? This is one that is different because you're not going to see it in Florida or any place else like this. Unless you're going to the Netherlands, you can see it in the Netherlands. But if you're not, this is the best place to see this Tulip Time parade. Next slide. Then on day 7, we have more sightseeing. We go back to Holland, and we do the immersion garden, and we do Windmill Island. So we don't do it on the Saturday of the parade. It's a bit much to do all of it in a single day. I know a lot of the itineraries that I've seen do all of it in one day. We do not for the trip. So we'll do the fair, we'll do the parade and some time at the festival in downtown on one day. You can see tulips at the city park, which is only a few blocks from the parade route. And then on Sunday, we are in we're in Holland, and we will go to Windmill Island. Seeing the windmill in and of itself, it is a real and historic and still in working order windmill is the last exported out of the Netherlands. The Netherlands has a law where it could not be done, and it was a special arrangement. And you'll see the tulips there. We go there first. They're quite good. And then we go to the immersion tulips. Both are admissions that are included. The immersion tulips are just breathtaking. I've been to Keukenhof. I've been to the World's Fair, the Floral World's Fair in the Netherlands. It comes only once every 10 years. It never ceases to amaze me how beautiful sculptured, organized as art tulips can be, and that's what the immersion garden is in Holland. And then this evening we have a farewell dinner, happy hour, and then farewell dinner in Grand Rapids. And then next On day 8, we provide transfers, and you will fly home from Grand Rapids. Grand Rapids, Detroit, approximately 2 hours apart, and so instead of having to ride back, it's much more convenient for you to fly into Detroit and return from Grand Rapids. Next. Easy to make your reservations, $399 to confirm your deposit. As everybody knows, reservations are handled 24 hours a day digitally. So you can click on that. If you don't remember that or you don't want to write it down, all you have to do is go to the Travel Club's website, which is happening.travel, and then just click on USA, and this trip will come right up. And I encourage you to do that before you make any decision on the trip, because it provides every detail of the trip. A good explanation on the day by day, all of the inclusion features that we've talked about. I'm touching highlights, but go to happening.travel and you can do Holland Tulip Festival 2027. Or if you don't do that, just go to happening.travel and click USA, and this tour will come up for you in display. Next. So that's a summary of the trip. We're going to open if anybody would like to ask any questions. Amy, anything that I'm missing that I haven't told people of what the experience would be like to come to Holland during Tulip time? Anything that I didn't cover?
Well, I don't know what your plans are, but again, we do have nightly entertainment too. So we won't know those artists or events until the fall, but that is another option if you are looking for things to do in the evening as well.
Okay, excellent.
And before we go for other questions, Marianne, who's actually watching on YouTube while it's still live, asked about bike rentals on Mackinaw, if they can be reserved ahead. No, not generally, but since there's no cars, there are massive numbers of bikes for rental. If there's any wait, it'll be a short one. So it's not anything to worry about if you want to rent a bike.
Yeah, absolutely. David's answer is absolutely on point. And I would say to the question, you for the special kinds of things that you want to do in Mackinaw, like the bike rental, and for the horse carriage also. On Main Street, the horse carriage stand for an hour and approximately 45-minute tour of the island. You do not have to make reservations for any of those activities or any of them. There is so much of it available. It's no problem in doing. And really, they don't really want you to make the reservations in advance, because they assume, oh, well, you're going to have plan changes. Now, we won't on our tour. Our plans won't change. But there's absolutely no reason that you have to worry about bike to get around, or horse carriage for the tour, or horse taxi to get anywhere. If you wanted to go to the fort, or you wanted to ride a taxi to the Grand Hotel, no problem at all. Zero problem. You don't have to worry about that, and you do not reserve it in advance. Thank you for that.
And to Amy's point, as we get closer to departure, and we will be sending out documents for the trip, we'll have a list of all the entertainment that Tulip Time will have as well, so that you can make decisions around what we have included and what they have optionally that they're offering. There's a lot going on, and there's a lot you won't want to miss. So we'll make sure to get the full details and make sure everybody has those before they go up there so they can prepare.
One thing that I didn't discuss that I haven't mentioned yet was weather. We've been in, all of us are probably from most of us are probably from someplace else, and that's in the Northeast or the Midwest. This is not a snow destination time in the first and second week in May. So you're not going to experience snow. Talking about the weird exception is really diversionary. You're not going to experience snow. It will be cooler than Florida, obviously, but while we had lots of experience in the 50s and the 60s, we were surprised by the Michiganders that are in T-shirts and shorts. There were lots and lots and lots of people. This is their spring, and they're thrilled about the weather in the spring. So in general, I don't think that this is an advisory for weather for you. It could have some very cool evenings, but in general, it is moderate for Michigan standard and cool for Florida standard, of course. But you're not talking about snow, and you're not talking about significant adverse weather. And layered clothing with jacket, sweater, etc., makes it completely comfortable in terms of the weather of the first 2 weeks in May. So, David, I'm going to turn it over to you if there are any specific questions that somebody has for Amy, and we'll that.
And if you do want to ask a question, you can click on the red microphone to unmute yourself. If you are on a computer, you can also click on the little chat box in the bottom right to type out questions. Or if you're on mobile, there's 3 dots. You can click that for in-call chat to type out a question, if anybody has any.
Okay. So anybody have any questions that they would like to ask me or Amy?
Well, if not, thank you all for joining us. It's a great trip. You can book online now. If you do have further questions after, or if you're on YouTube watching this after 4 p.m. on June 3rd or so, when we're about to end, you can always text us or email us at any time, or you can call us 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday, and we can assist you with any questions you may have on the trip. So.
One last thing, David. I'm jealous as all hell that I'm not sitting in the middle of a tulip garden like you are. That's a great image there.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, David. Thank you, Amy. A pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.